Hi, Laura LaFay here with Truth Seed. And today I'm going to tell you a story. It's actually a parable. And as you know, a parable is kind of an ancient story. And this particular one is about a spiritual master. And he's on his deathbed, and his disciples have come to ask him who was his master. It's one of my favorite stories. When the great Sufi mystic Hassan was dying, somebody asked, "Hassan, who was your master?" He said, "Oh, goodness, I had thousands of masters. It would take such a long time to relate to you. Months, years. We don't have time. It's too late." But there were three masters in particular that I will tell you about. The first one was a thief. I was lost in a desert one night, and I came to a village finally, and there was no one around, and I had nowhere to stay, and I wasn't sure where to go. I hadn't eaten or had water in a very long time. And then I saw a man drilling a hole in a wall in a house. And I said, "Excuse me, could you tell me where I might stay for the night?" And he said, "Oh, it's very late. You're probably not going to be able to find a place to stay tonight, but you can stay with me. That is, if you don't mind staying with a thief." Well, I did stay with him that night, and he was such a lovely fellow that I wound up staying for a month. And every night before he would go out, he would say, "Now I must work. You stay and rest. You pray." And then when he would get back in the late evening, I would always say, "So how did it go? Did you get anything?" And he would say, "No, maybe tomorrow." And he was always such a happy guy, never hopeless or desperate. And he was always saying, "I'll just try again tomorrow." So later in my life, when I was meditating and nothing seemed to be happening, and I was becoming quite frustrated. And then suddenly I would think about the thief and about how he would say, "God willing, tomorrow it will happen." And I adopted that phrase for myself. The second master I had was a dog. One day I was very thirsty, and I came to a river, and the dog also was coming to the river at the same time. But every time the dog would get close to the water, it would see its own reflection, think it was another dog, and run away. Well, the dog's thirst was great, and eventually he did come back, and finally he just jumped straight into the water, making the illusion of another dog disappear. And I knew that that message had come to me from God, that sometimes, despite your fear, you must just jump. And the third master that I had was a small child. I came to a village, and there was a boy walking with a candle, a lit candle. He was taking the candle to a mosque. And I said, "Did you light that candle to yourself?" And he said, "I did." And he said, "Well, then you must have noticed that there was no flame and that there was a flame. Are you able to tell me the source of the light?" And he laughed, and he blew out the candle, and he said, "Now you have seen the light go. Can you tell me where it went?" Well, I was a little taken aback by that. He was this small child, and he'd shattered my ego. My whole knowledge was shattered. And at that moment, I felt very stupid. And at that moment, I dropped all of what I thought was my knowledge. It is true that I had no master. That does not mean that I was not a disciple. I accepted the whole existence as my master. My disciplehood was a greater involvement than yours, because I trusted the clouds, the trees. I trusted existence as such. I had no master because I had millions of masters. I learned from every possible source. To be a disciple is to be truly committed to your path. What does it mean to be a disciple? It means the ability to learn, the willingness to learn, to be vulnerable to existence. With the master, you start learning to learn. Slowly, slowly, you get in tune, and slowly you begin to see the point. And in that same way, you become in tune with the whole universe. The master is like a swimming pool where you can learn to swim. Once you have learned, all the oceans are yours. I'm Laura LaFay with Truth Seed, asking one question. Who have you learned from lately? Thanks so much for watching.